The scream cut through the quiet night like a knife. It was my mother's voice, sharp and trembling, a sound I had never heard from her before. I ran from my room, my heart pounding as if it wanted to break out of my chest. When I reached the living room, the sight before me froze me in place. Grandma was on the floor. Her eyes were half open, her mouth parted as though she had been about to speak, but never finished the words. Her chest wasn't moving, and her skin was already growing pale. The woman who had been laughing just a few hours earlier, telling us one of her endless stories, was now lying still, motionless, and frighteningly silent. "No, Mama, please. Don't leave us," my mother cried, falling to her knees beside her. The room spun around me. The sound of footsteps echoed as neighbors rushed in. Someone yelled to call an ambulance, someone else was praying out loud, and in the middle of all this noise, Grandma lay there gone. And just like that, the last chapter of her life was written too suddenly. But what really happened? How could someone so full of life, so full of stories and laughter, be taken so quickly? How did we get to this moment, where the strongest woman I had ever known could vanish in a blink? That night wasn't just the end. It was also the beginning, of secrets revealed, of memories uncovered, and of lessons that would change me forever. Let me take you back to the start of it all. Grandma's story began long before that dreadful night, long before I even existed. She was the kind of woman everyone in the neighborhood knew. Her real name was Margaret, but no one called her that. To us, she was just Grandma, even to people who weren't related to her by blood. She had a way of making anyone feel like family, whether it was a poor child on the street or a stranger who came knocking at our gate. Life hadn't been kind to her, though. She grew up during hard times, when food was scarce and opportunities even scarcer. As a young girl, she would tell me how she had to walk miles barefoot to fetch water, balancing heavy pots on her head. "Those struggles," she once told me, tapping my forehead with her wrinkled finger, "are what made me strong. Don't ever let hard times break you. Let them make you." And strong she was. Strong enough to raise 6 children almost single-handedly after her husband, my grandfather, died young. Strong enough to survive the wars of poverty, betrayal, and even sickness. Every wrinkle on her face carried a story, and every story carried a lesson. But behind all the laughter and wisdom, there were moments of pain. Grandma never talked much about her youth beyond a certain point. Whenever she reached the story of how she lost her first child, her voice would trail off and she would busy herself with chores. That was the thing about her. She carried her wounds quietly, but her eyes told you they were there. Even so, the woman loved life. She danced at weddings, sang hymns in church, and told stories that painted pictures brighter than movies. To me, she was unbreakable, untouchable. Death seemed too far away to touch her. Until that night. It was a Sunday evening, one of those nights when the whole family gathered in her sitting room. The air was thick with the smell of her famous chicken stew. The kind that made you lick your fingers even before touching the food. The children played in the corner, while the adults chatted about work, politics, and gossip from the neighborhood. Grandma was in the middle of it all, sitting on her favorite wooden chair. She wore a bright blue wrapper, her silver hair tied neatly in a scarf. Her laughter filled the room, a sound so rich it could drown out any sadness. She told us about her youth again that night, about how she once climbed a mango tree in her school uniform just to impress her friends. Everyone roared with laughter. Nobody could imagine the old woman before them once swinging like a monkey on tree branches. Then, just as the laughter died down, she grew serious. Her voice softened, her eyes misty. "Children," she said, "life is like a book. Each day is a page, each year a chapter. And one day, the book ends. We don't choose when, but we must write it well." We all nodded, touched by her wisdom. None of us imagined how close her book was to its last page. Later that night, when most of the family had gone, Grandma stayed up chatting with my mother and me. She gave me a tight hug, longer than usual, and kissed my forehead. "You'll remember me when I'm gone, won't you?" she asked. I laughed nervously. "You're not going anywhere, Grandma." But the look in her eyes, it was different. Almost as if she knew something we didn't. That same night, in the early hours, it happened. I was in my room, half asleep, when I heard the crash, a heavy thud followed by a sharp cry. I jumped out of bed and ran into the living room. What I saw there still burns in my memory. Grandma was lying on the ground, her chair tipped over beside her. Her hands were trembling, clutching at her chest as if invisible fingers were squeezing the life out of her. My mother was screaming, shaking her violently. I wanted to run to her, but my feet wouldn't move. Fear froze me. My ears buzzed. My whole world slowed down. Then, like a cruel thief, the trembling stopped. Her hand dropped to her side. The strongest woman I knew was gone. Or was she? Because just as we thought her spirit had left, something strange happened. A faint gasp escaped her lips. Her eyes flickered, just for a second, as if she was caught between two worlds. Everyone screamed again. Was she alive? Was this a miracle? And then, for a moment, hope lit up the room. Look. She's breathing. Mama, she's back, my mother shouted, tears spilling down her face as she held Grandma's hand tightly. The faint gasp from Grandma's lips filled all of us with a sudden rush of belief. Maybe it wasn't over. Maybe death had only brushed past her, but hadn't taken her yet. The neighbors leaned in, whispering, praying, some already dialing numbers for the hospital. My heart was beating so fast it felt like drums pounding in my chest. Stay with us, Mama. Don't go, my mother cried, shaking her gently. Grandma's eyes fluttered again, only slightly. Her lips parted, but no words came out. It was like she wanted to speak, but the air in her lungs refused to obey. That flicker of life made us all think she could hold on, but then, just as quickly, her body went still again. This time, there was no movement. The silence in the room was louder than any scream. No. Please God, not like this, my mother wailed, collapsing over her. I stood frozen, staring, my small hands trembling at my sides. The strongest woman I knew, the one who always told me bedtime stories and sang hymns while cooking, was lying in front of me like a broken doll. I wanted to scream too, but my throat was locked tight. The ambulance sirens wailed in the distance. When they arrived, 2 men rushed in with a stretcher. They moved quickly, checking her pulse, pressing on her chest, trying to wake her with sharp voices. I clung to the doorway, praying silently in my heart. Don't let her die. Please don't let her die. They carried her out, and just like that, Grandma disappeared into the night, swallowed by flashing red and blue lights. At the hospital, the corridors smelled of antiseptic, cold and sharp, like fear itself. We waited outside the emergency room, our knees bouncing, our breaths shallow. My mother paced back and forth, whispering prayers over and over again. Every second felt like an hour. The door finally opened, and a doctor stepped out. His face was heavy, unreadable. I'm sorry, he said slowly, but she's gone. The words landed like stones. My mother screamed. My knees gave way. Gone. Just like that? But before we could even sink into our grief, another nurse came rushing out. Wait, she said breathlessly. There's still a faint heartbeat. It's weak, but it's there. Hope sparked again like a flame refusing to die out. Then do something, my mother shouted. Save her. Please save my mother. The doors closed once more, and we were left outside again, torn between hope and despair, faith and fear. Hours passed. By the time morning came, my eyes were swollen from crying. Every time a nurse walked past, I jumped up, hoping for news. My mind was flooded with memories. Grandma teaching me how to knead dough. Grandma holding my hand as we walked to church. Grandma scolding me gently when I disobeyed. Could all of that just end like this? Finally, the doctor returned. His words were measured, careful. She is alive, he said. My mother gasped. Thank you, God. But, the doctor continued, she is very weak. Her heart gave out last night, and we managed to revive her. She's stable for now, but she's not out of danger. We'll keep her here and do all we can. Relief swept over us like a wave. We clung to it, fragile as it was. At least she was still here. We were allowed to see her. Inside the room, Grandma lay on a hospital bed, tubes and wires connected to her frail body. Her chest rose and fell, shallow but steady. Her eyes were closed, but she was still with us. I took her hand. It was warm, though weaker than I remembered. Grandma, I whispered, please don't leave me. For a second, I thought I saw her eyelids twitch, as if she was trying to open them, to answer me. The days that followed were a storm of emotions. Some mornings she seemed stronger, her breathing steadier. My mother would smile then, sitting by her side, reading Bible verses and stroking her hand. Other times alarms would beep, and nurses would rush in, making our hearts stop with fear. It was like walking a tightrope between life and death. I remember one evening, sitting by her bed, when she finally opened her eyes. They were weak, glassy, but they locked onto mine. "Child," she whispered, her voice hoarse, barely audible. I leaned in quickly. "Yes, Grandma? I'm here." "Life is short," she said slowly. "Don't waste it." Tears spilled down my cheeks. "I won't, Grandma. I promise." She gave me the faintest smile before drifting back into sleep. Those words carved themselves deep into my heart. Life is short. Don't waste it. The family rallied around her. Cousins, uncles, aunts. Everyone came to the hospital, bringing flowers, food, and endless prayers. We were united in our hope, even though fear lingered in every corner of our hearts. But then came the night that shook everything again. It was late, past midnight. I had dozed off in the hospital chair beside her bed when I heard a sharp, shrill alarm. Nurses rushed in, their faces tight with urgency. "Her heart rate is dropping," one shouted. I jolted awake, my chest tightening. My mother jumped up from her chair, grabbing Grandma's hand desperately. "No, not again. Please fight, Mama, fight." The machines beeped wildly. Doctors hurried in, voices overlapping, instructions shouted. I pressed myself against the wall, trembling, watching as chaos erupted around Grandma's fragile body. Her chest stopped moving. The monitor flatlined. And then the sound was like a scream in the room, long, sharp, and endless. The heart monitor had flatlined. "No, no, no," my mother cried, her hands gripping Grandma's arm as if she could pull her back into life by sheer force. The doctors moved quickly. One of them jumped onto the bed, pressing his palms hard against Grandma's chest. 1, 2, 3, he counted, pushing with all his strength. Another doctor prepared a defibrillator, rubbing the paddles together until sparks crackled. "Clear," he shouted. We all stepped back as her body jerked violently from the shock. For a moment, the line on the monitor flickered, then fell flat again. Again. Another jolt. Another violent twitch. Still flat. My mother was sobbing so loudly that even the nurses' hands trembled as they tried to keep working. I stood frozen in the corner, my small fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. I wanted to scream, but my throat was locked shut. "Don't let her go. Please, God, don't let her go," I whispered over and over. Again. The paddles pressed against her chest one more time. Her body leapt, her head tilted back, and then beep. A single sound. A heartbeat. The room froze. We all leaned in, our ears straining. The monitor beeped again. Then again. Weak, slow, but there. "She's back," one of the doctors said, his face dripping with sweat. My mother collapsed to the floor, sobbing, this time with relief. "Thank you, Lord. Thank you." I pressed my palms to my face, tears spilling freely. She was alive. Again. But the truth was clear. She was slipping away, piece by piece. Every moment felt like stolen time, borrowed from a clock that was already running out. The doctor warned us later that night. "Your mother is fragile. She's fighting, but her heart is very weak. These episodes could keep happening. I'm sorry, but we don't know how much longer she has." His words pierced through us. My mother nodded slowly, though tears still flowed down her cheeks. "Just keep her alive," she whispered. "That's all I ask." The days turned into a strange rhythm of hope and fear. In the mornings, she would sometimes wake up and smile weakly at us. She'd whisper short words, always wise, always heavy with meaning. "Be kind. Stay strong. Love each other." And then she would drift back into sleep, her breath shallow and unsteady. I began to wonder if she knew something we didn't, if she was already writing her final words, giving us pieces of her soul before she left. One afternoon, when most of the family had gone home to rest, I sat alone beside her bed. The sun filtered through the window, painting golden stripes across her face. I took her frail hand in mine, afraid it might slip away if I let go. "Grandma," I whispered, "please don't leave us. I still need you. Who will tell me stories at night? Who will teach me about life? Her lips trembled, and she forced her eyes open. Child. Her voice was barely a breath. Stories don't end. They live in you. I swallowed hard, my heart breaking. But I don't want stories. I want you. Her eyes filled with tears, and a single drop slid down her wrinkled cheek. She squeezed my hand with surprising strength. Then remember me. Her eyes closed again, and I held her hand tighter, afraid of what might happen if I let go. That evening, the whole family gathered around her bed. My uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone came. The small hospital room was crowded, but no one complained. We wanted to be there, to give her our warmth, our prayers, our love. For a while, the room was filled with soft singing. My mother led a hymn, her voice trembling but beautiful. Grandma lay still, her breathing uneven, but I could swear I saw her lips moving faintly along with the song. The atmosphere felt almost peaceful, as if love itself was holding her alive. Then, without warning, her breathing hitched. A sharp, ragged gasp escaped her throat. The monitor began to beep wildly, the lines on the screen dancing out of control. Not again, my mother screamed, panic flooding her voice. Nurses rushed in, shouting instructions, pushing us aside. One of them shouted for the crash cart. My cousins began crying, my uncles pacing in frantic circles. The chaos returned, swallowing the peace in an instant. Her chest rose once, twice, then stopped. The monitor flatlined again. And this time, the flatline cut through the room like a blade. Again. Don't stop, the doctor shouted, his voice sharp with urgency. Nurses scrambled, their hands moving fast, checking tubes, preparing injections, passing instruments. The beeping machine stayed silent, its long, straight line mocking all of us. My mother was screaming, her voice raw, almost animal-like. No. Mama, no. Please don't leave me. She tried to push past the nurses, but my uncle held her back, his own tears streaming. Clear. Grandma's body jerked as the paddles shocked her chest. We all held our breath, our eyes glued to the screen. Nothing. Again. Another shock. Another violent twitch. The line wavered, then flattened again. I pressed my palms against my ears, shaking my head, tears blurring my vision. Please, God, please, not her. The room was filled with commands, cries, and prayers, all colliding into one storm. Then, after what felt like forever, the monitor gave a faint beep. Weak, fragile, but real. She's back, the nurse whispered, almost in disbelief. Relief burst out like a wave. My mother dropped to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. My uncles hugged each other, their bodies trembling. I clung to the edge of the bed, staring at Grandma's fragile chest rising and falling again. She had fought death once more. But how many times could she keep fighting? Later, when the room had calmed, the doctor spoke to us gently. His eyes were tired, his shoulders heavy. She's surviving by the thinnest thread. Every time her heart stops, it takes more out of her. I won't lie to you. Her time is very short. Prepare yourselves. The words sank like stones in our hearts. My mother shook her head violently. No. She's strong. She's always been strong. She will live. But even she knew. Deep down we all did. That night, I sat beside Grandma, holding her hand, afraid to close my eyes. I studied her face, the lines of age, the softness of her lips, the silver crown of her hair. She looked both fragile and eternal, like a candle flickering against the wind. I remembered the times she carried me on her back when I was too tired to walk. The way she scolded me gently for stealing sugar from the jar. The evenings when she sat outside under the moon, humming old songs. Each memory was a treasure. But treasures felt useless when the person herself was slipping away. The next morning, she woke briefly. Her eyes opened, cloudy but full of warmth. She looked around at the family gathered close and whispered, "Why are you all crying?" We laughed nervously through our tears. My mother leaned in. "Because we love you, Mama. We don't want to lose you." Grandma gave the faintest chuckle. "Foolish children," she said weakly. "You can't lose me. I'll always be here. Even when you can't see me." Her words cut deep, a strange mix of comfort and pain. "Promise me," she whispered, her eyes shifting slowly across the room. Don't fight each other when I'm gone. Love each other. Stay together. That's my last wish. We all nodded, tears blinding us. We promise, Mama, my mother whispered, her voice breaking. Grandma smiled faintly, her hand twitching against mine. Good, then I can rest. That evening, something unusual happened. The hospital had grown quiet, the corridors dim under the soft glow of night lights. Most of my relatives had gone home to rest, leaving only me, my mother, and an aunt at her bedside. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of disinfectant and sorrow. Suddenly, Grandma stirred. Her eyes opened wide this time, sharper than before. She stared into the corner of the room, her lips parting slightly. Do you see him? She whispered. My mother froze. See who, Mama? Grandma's eyes glistened. Your father, he's waiting. We exchanged frightened glances. My grandfather had been dead for decades. Don't leave us yet, my mother begged, clutching her hand. Please don't go with him. But Grandma's gaze never shifted from the corner of the room. She smiled, soft and peaceful, as if she truly saw someone standing there. Then, with a shaky breath, she whispered, He's calling me home. Her chest rose once more, then stilled. The monitor began to wail. When Grandma took her final breath, the world felt empty. The hospital room was filled with sobs, prayers, and disbelief, but nothing could bring her back. She had fought hard, slipping in and out of death's hands, but in the end, she let go peacefully, as though she knew her book had reached its last page. Her words, however, never left us. Life is short. Don't waste it. Love each other. Stay together. Stories don't end. They live in you. Those sentences became our guide. At her burial, people came from everywhere. Neighbors, old friends, even strangers who had once received her kindness. They all spoke about how Grandma had touched their lives, how her laughter had lifted them, how her wisdom had guided them. It struck me then. Death had ended her life, but it had not ended her story. Her story was alive in all of us. I realized that this is what she meant. The body goes, but the legacy stays. Her life, though cut short suddenly, was full. She left behind lessons that would outlive her.